All right, trustees, good evening. It's 6 o'clock. I'm going to call the Board of Education meeting to order. Trustees, first up on the agenda tonight is our annual election of officers. And just so you know, we'll elect officers in the following order: President, Vice President, Secretary, and then Treasurer. Each position will be voted on separately. So I'm now accepting nominations for the position of Board President.
I nominate Becky Brooks for Board President.
Mr. Simpson has nominated Ms. Brooks for the position of President. Is there a second to that nomination?
Second.
The nomination has been seconded. The chair does require a motion to elect Ms. Brooks as President of the Board of Education.
I move to elect Becky Brooks as Board President.
Thank you, Mr. Simpson. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Lewis. The motion before us is to elect Ms. Brooks as President of the Board of Education. I'll now do a roll call vote. Trustee Davis?
Aye.
Trustee McGee?
Nay.
Trustee Brooks?
Aye.
Trustee Martinez?
Aye.
Trustee Miller?
Nay.
Trustee Simpson?
Aye.
Trustee Lewis?
Aye.
By a vote of 5 yes and 2 no, Ms. Brooks has been elected as President of the Board of Education for the 2026 calendar year. Ms. Brooks, I now invite you to assume the chair, and I will pass the gavel along to you for
Yeah, that's probably easier.
approval of the other positions. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I look forward to serving this board, this district, and our community. With that said, I would like to nominate Lynn Davis for Vice President.
Second.
Thank you. Roll call vote. Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Sorry, I'm writing as I'm doing this, so bear with me here just a moment. And Ms. McGee?
Aye.
And Darren?
Aye.
Thank you. So, Mr. Lewis,
Aye.
I think that's got everybody. And do I have a nomination for secretary?
I
nominate
oh, go ahead.
Trustee Martinez.
Do I have a second?
Second.
So we have a nomination for Mr. Martinez to run for to be the board secretary. Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And Ms. McGee?
Aye.
And Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Thank you.
Chair vote.
Chair votes aye. Thank you. Good reminder. Welcome, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you.
And that leaves an opening for the treasurer.
I nominate Greg Lewis as treasurer.
I'll second that. And Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Excuse me. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Ms. McGee?
Nay.
And Mr. Miller?
Nay.
Okay. So we have our slate of officers. Welcome, Mr. Martinez and Mr. Lewis, to your new position as well. And that takes us to the Pledge of Allegiance by Ms. McGee.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. That will take us to the good news. Mr. Hilton?
Okay, thank you, President Brooks. Trustees, good evening. Give me just a second here to pull up tonight's good news. Okay, trustees, first up tonight, I'll just start by saying I love this tradition that's in the Tecumseh Public Schools. You know this, but there is this week before the holiday break tradition here that includes two of these oddly oddly familiar looking elves that just happened to drop by each of our schools the week before we left for the holidays. So not only do these two elves seem to have day jobs, one at the Tecumseh Middle School and one here at the high school, but they also made their way to the early learning centers. And I got to tell you that all of our kids, whether they're in preschool or they're seniors, as well as myself, have grown to love this tradition and the annual visit from the elves. So in some other news tonight, recently our Tecumseh Middle School students showcased their skills at the middle school VIII robotics competition, which is hosted annually by the Hudson area schools at the Southern Michigan Center for Science and Industry. So we competed alongside a number of other area schools with our students who participate in Project Lead the Way classes, where at the event they demonstrated their creativity, their teamwork, their problem-solving skills, and this event truly is a fantastic event for kids to demonstrate the hands-on, project-based nature of science, technology, engineering, and math that is found in PLTW. Next up tonight, trustees, I wanted to take a minute and highlight the high school career fair from this past fall. So the timing just didn't hold in the fall for me to do it right away, but it's an important event, and I wanted to bring it to your attention and the attention of the community. The career fair really is an career exploration fair. I think that's a better way to share what actually occurs. And it featured over 50 businesses from Lenawee County as well as some surrounding counties. It's organized by the Tecumseh High School Counseling Department, and it really does offer our students a unique chance to connect with employers and explore various career opportunities. So a highlight of this fair is that the kids get complete questionnaires that are designed to help them discover career pathways that best match their interests and strengths. So throughout the event, the kids engage with local business representatives. They ask questions about skills and qualifications, and of course they ask questions about entry-level salaries for various positions within the industry. And these industries included agricultural, food and natural resources, architecture and construction, marketing and communication, business and education, energy and resource management, government and public administration, to hospitality, law enforcement, human services, to science and technology, as well as the arts. It really was a tremendous event, and I wanted to put it on the agenda tonight to personally thank each of the area businesses and representatives that attended, as well as to say that tomorrow there's going to be a video of the event that hits our Facebook page. So I'll send it to you all, and I would encourage the community to check that out when it hits tomorrow. And finally, trustees, you know this, but January is School Board Recognition Month, and I often try to think about what I want to say to express gratitude for all of that you do. And so I come back to this idea of you never really understand what it means to sit in the chair until you actually sit in the chair. And so I myself have had a number of experiences sitting in various chairs. And so I wanted to thank you for the leadership and service that you provide to the Tecumseh Public Schools. It is with a sincere gratitude and acknowledgement of each of you for your hard work, your dedication, the time spent, the commitment that you make to the success and well-being of our students, our staff, and our community. And most importantly, for volunteering to sit in the chair of public school leadership. So thank you. Ms. Brooks, that concludes good news. Thank you.
Thank you. That brings us to public comment. In accordance with the Open Meeting Act of 1986, the board provides opportunity for citizens' input during the public comment section. Because agendas are full, we are limiting to 3 minutes. Do we have public comment? I'll start the timer when you start, and
Sounds good.
please try to wrap up your comments as quickly as possible when the timer goes off.
Sure, I've
Thank
got them right here.
Thank
Can everyone
you.
hear me?
Yes.
Good evening. My name is Matt Durr. I'm a parent of 2 students here in the district. I'm here this evening to raise awareness to the board about ongoing violations of students' Fourth Amendment here at Tecumseh High School. Last week, my daughter informed me that once again, her classes were interrupted so that staff could do a search of students' personal belongings in search of cell phones. This marked the 3rd time this year that her classes have been interrupted for one of these searches. I'm here because the search itself is in violation of your own board policy, and it's a violation of the students' Fourth Amendment rights. Per the Tecumseh Public Schools Board Policy 5103, quote, "A reasonable suspicion search must be justified at its inception and reasonable in its scope. A search is justified at its inception when school officials have reasonable grounds to suspect that the search will uncover contraband or evidence of violation of law, policy, or rule," end quote. Blanket checks of classrooms do not fall under the guidance of reasonable suspicion, and it certainly isn't justified in its scope. To be justified in its inception, the school must have a legitimate reason to believe that the search will unveil evidence of a law or school rule being violated. That came from the Michigan Association of Secondary School Principals website. My daughter has submitted to 4 of these searches so far this year, and only 1 time did staff find a cell phone on any of the students. During these searches, my daughter saw students be told to empty their pockets and pat themselves down to prove that they were not carrying a cell phone. While I understand and respect that there are certain parts of the school that are open for search and there are situations that require the need for that to happen, blindly entering a classroom and hoping to find a cell phone does not appear to be in the spirit of your own policy. It does appear to violate laws that protect our students and their rights against unreasonable search. Some of you may be aware that in 2009, the Detroit Public School System were sued by the ACLU for similar types of searches. In the end, the district was forced to pay lawyers' fees and damages to the students who rightfully sued over these violations. I sincerely hope the board takes this issue seriously and puts an immediate end to these unconstitutional searches. Thank you.
Do you have other board comment? Or public comment? I'm sorry. Hey, Mary Beth.
I'm Mary Beth Manziar, and my dad's school opened in 1929. It is still open and operational and in great shape today. They kept up a pool for 90 years until a huge new aquatic center was built. The swimming pool at Bay City Western, where my husband went to school, opened in 1973. The same year the school itself was established and is still being used today. As a band director, I was always impressed with Jackson High School's auditorium and music rooms. It opened with a pool in 1927. Once again, it was kept up until 2018 when a new aquatic center was built. In our area with similar demographics, Adrian, Dundee has 2, Milan, Chelsea, Dexter, and Saline all have pools, that have been kept up. I know my high school, where I went to school, didn't have a pool. We had a nice auditorium, which drew people to our school, but if they had kids who were swimmers, or a lot of them went to either St. Joe or Bridgman on either side of us because of the pool. I know people who moved away from Lakeshore who were classmates of mine who, when the kids got into swimming and they wanted to do that, they moved. So the lack of upkeep just baffles me. And when I tell people that about the Tecumseh school, they're like, oh, like Tecumseh? They're really surprised. So I guess I'm asking to just consider where the money goes, and I think it should be focused on upkeep of the facilities as opposed to anything else. And I do think money has been misspent over the years. It's a long list. I won't go into it, but please, please consider that the school is a community asset, and we're better than that. We should be keeping our facilities up. Thank you very much.
Any other public comment? Okay. That takes us to revisions. Is anybody aware of any revisions?
I would like to propose one, that
Okay.
we add a committee discussion to the discussion item, specifically budget as a committee of the whole.
Okay, are you making that as a motion?
I am, I move that we add a
Do we,
committee discussion to the discussion item, specifically budget committee of the whole.
do we have a second?
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. We will be adding that to the discussion items.
Now we need to approve you want me to
Right.
move?
I move to approve the agenda as amended to include the discussion of a committee of the whole for the budget.
Second.
Nice job, Mr. Martinez.
Thank you. I'm getting there.
You slid right in there. It was perfect. And so roll call vote on that one. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
And Mrs. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye, so we will discuss that here shortly. That will take us into scheduled reports, the first one being the Budget Committee. It looks like Ms. Davis is presenting.
I did not attend the meeting.
Oh.
So.
I will present.
Okay.
We had the meeting on the 15th, called to order at 5 o'clock. We discussed the recreational millage, so that'll be further on the agenda here, so I'm not going to go into it. We also talked about the working definition for fund balance, so we kicked that can down the road to the policy committee, because that's where it needs to be. So, and then we got the reports from finance department, treasurer's report, year-to-date summary, the December state aid status report, and November state aid update. We also got our payment for the 31 AA, even though we opted out, so we'll probably have to be sending that back and so forth, unless, who knows what's going on with,
Right.
with the court case, but they sent us the money, and now they'll probably take it back, so, yeah. And that's all I got.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
So that takes us to the Safety and Facility Committee, which is mine. Most of the stuff that we talked about will be discussed here a little bit later between Mr. Madsen and Mr. Hilton. The one thing I did want to draw attention to, so we did an agreement with MISIC over at Sutton. We've got some solar over there, and that ended up saving us $14,054 last year. I thought that was pretty awesome. And next would be the Curriculum Committee.
All right. We met on the 7th this past week, and Megan presented to us this course. There's some information in the packet on it. It's a data science course. So we talked in the past about looking for something that had kind of a business leaning as a fourth-year math elective. And this course is kind of looking to fill that position, you know, focusing on collecting, using, and interpreting data. It's looked like a good kind of position both for you know, kids with an interest in business, but also just generally for developing the skill set of you know, reading through and interpreting data. So there's some of that in the packet, and that was, you know, she wanted to have a discussion on that and try to move that towards approval. The other thing we talked about, which I think at some point we're going to have presented to us, was the difference in PSAT outcomes from students who are doing dual enrollment versus students who are taking one of our in-house classes. The students who are being basically taught by our teachers were outperforming, I don't have the number right in front of me.
I
but
do.
Go ahead, because it was impressive.
49 points higher
49
if
points.
they were taught by our staff.
Yeah, markedly outperforming the students who were doing dual enrollment. So we, felt like, one, this is a real bragging point for our teachers and for our programs. But two, we need to be looking at how we're positioning dual enrollment and, trying to get our kids access, when appropriate, to what seems like a better education by having them taking our courses here. And we had asked, Megan and Ms. Irish to kind of get that data together in a more presentable way and bring it to us, because it really was pretty impressive.
Awesome.
That's all I've got.
All right. That's all I recall too. And that will take us to discussion items.
All right, first up tonight under discussion items is a McDonald's donation. Trustees, this past fall, along with many other surrounding school districts, our athletic department participated in the McDonald's High School Sports Digital Fundraiser. So I'm pleased to announce that McDonald's recently donated to the Tecumseh Public Schools Athletic Department a check for $573.19. And while this dollar amount certainly is meaningful, what's even more significant in my mind is what it represents, and that is our community coming together to support our student athletes. So I want to express my sincere gratitude and appreciation for McDonald's and their commitment to high school athletics, as well as to our district, as well as a thank you to the family, staff, and community who participated in this fundraiser. Excuse me. Sorry. Their support certainly provides valuable resources and experiences for our student athletes. So thank you.
Next up, we have Ms. Way, Careers and Data Science Course Adoption.
Thank you. So as Mr. Martinez talked about, just going through our normal process for if we want to adopt a new course for the next school year, bring it to the curriculum committee first, and then bring it to discussion for the full board and have an opportunity to answer any questions, and then hopefully be able to vote on that at the next meeting. But just an overview of the course. If you can remember, one of our strategic plan goals that we were looking at was trying to get some more business, career, opportunity, exploration for our students as elective credit at the high school. And so we started looking at some of our different curriculum vendors that we already have to see if they offered any resources or curriculum for that. And as we started digging into that, we actually found this Foundations of Data Science course. And it really piqued our interest. So Mr. McDowell, our CTE computer science teacher, Ms. Irish, and myself really started to look at this course a little closer. One of the things that we were keeping in mind is that for our CTE course for computer science, our advisory board, which is made up of some community members that work in the computer science industry, they keep talking at these meetings about the need to help students and get more awareness about data and working with data. And so that was one thing that was on our mind. And then also with the Michigan hot jobs, the top 50 hot jobs that came out, data scientist jobs are projected to grow in Michigan by 35% in the next 8 to 10 years, which was the second most growth on that list. Under nursing or nurse practitioners. And then also we've had this bigger conversation about having the need to have an additional option for students for their fourth year math experience. So all students have to take 4 years of math, and they call the senior year an experience. So students are able to get credit for a math experience in very unique ways, including art electives and computer science, of course, and then tech center courses. But we don't have many options other than that. So we thought this would be a great way to provide another elective for our seniors to be able to get that fourth year math credit. So it's a pretty cool class. You know, it focuses on things like data science basics, big data, business intelligence, data life cycles, cloud storage, that type of stuff, careers in data, data collection and visualization, and making predictions with Excel, things like that. The students learn how to collect, clean, analyze data using tools like Python and Jupyter Notebook.
They explore key data science concepts, statistical analysis, those types of things. And then the other cool thing about this particular course we're looking at is that they incorporate some real world projects. So one of the projects in the course is a social networking data deep dive. So they get to see, you know, what types of data are social networks collecting and what are they using the data for. So it's some real life problem solving and using data that goes along with it. So something we're really excited about and hoping to get implemented next year. Do you have any questions about the course?
Does it have to be a fourth-year elective?
It does not. So we want to start kind of small with it. We were just going to try to offer it first to seniors who wanted a different option for that fourth year math credit, who didn't want to do art or computer science or weren't going to the tech center. But we are going to also open it up to juniors that would just like to take it as an elective credit as well. We figure they need a couple of years of math under their belt to be successful in this class when we kind of look at it. So we were going to definitely start with seniors first, but if we had some spots and some interest, we would take on some juniors as well. And that they would just get an elective credit, you know, not the fourth year math credit, of course.
Two things. One, really focus in on Python.
Yeah.
That's kind of the gold standard right now for data science. Secondly, it's not really a business career, it's an engineering career, but
Yeah.
I'll give it to you. The other thing I wanted to know is there any certification that can come out of this?
So not quite sure on that, but we thought that we would explore some of the more computer science things like the Jupyter Notebook or the Python were the two that we looked at. And depending on, you know, as we get to know this course, there is a lot with Excel. We didn't know if we could offer some sort of credential or certificate for Excel because they're going to be doing a lot within that. But we have to look a little bit more at the scope and sequence and how many units we're going to be able to get through in a year and those types of things.
I know the Tech Center has a Excel certificate,
Yep.
and Google has several
Yeah.
certificates for Python. So
And Mr. McDowell is exploring those for the computer science courses as well because he does Python in there.
You know, like, Power BI, Power Analytics are also huge with it. One thing I would like to see involved in this is AI. 'Cause
Yeah,
now
there
we're
is
actually
definitely
beyond
AI
the
in it.
manual
Yep.
analytics is basically kind of old. Now it's into all AI analytics, using the tools that are out there in the business world. We use it both technically and for business sense. So just something to think about.
Absolutely. There are components of AI in the scope and sequence, and I think they use it in particular for like projecting and different things like that. But yeah, it's all in the, and I linked in the whole course map if you wanted to take a look at that. But yes, there are some AI components for sure. Any other questions? Okay.
Thank you, Ms. Way.
Thanks, Megan.
That takes it to you, Mr. Hilton.
Okay, trustees, the next item on the agenda is something that I'm bringing to the board's attention just as a 360-degree view on our recreation millage, so you have all of the information. So you know that our district currently has a rec millage that expires this year in 2026. Because we operate on 100% summer tax levy, this millage would actually need to be placed on the May 2026 ballot in order for it to be considered a renewal. The filing deadline for that election is February 10 of 2026, which gives us a little time, not much, but a little bit. You also know the millage is used to support some of, but certainly doesn't cover all of, the operational costs of our pool. And as you know, the pool is currently closed, and that's on the agenda this evening. So I did have a chance to share all of this information with both the Safety and Facilities Committee as well as the Budget Committee last December. Both committees felt that given our current circumstance, a non-renewal was the best approach for our community. So again, I'm bringing it forward to a full board for discussion with the recommendation of both of those committees, and I will pause here for your thoughts, if any.
I kind of feel like this is cart before the horse.
It is. It is. But with the pen, just in the order of operations, I guess, tonight, I wanted you to have the information in regard to this, knowing that the pool is later on the agenda.
So we'll circle back to that in discussion.
Yep.
Because it states the pool, doesn't it? Or it has in
It-
previous
it-
millage language?
The millage explicitly states the pool, that is correct.
So if it's a renewal, it has to have the same
It would be
language.
correct.
All right. If we can circle back to that, then let's go ahead and have our discussion with you and Mr. Madison regarding the pool.
Okay, thank you. All right, trustees, I'm getting organized as Mr. Madison is making his way up to the podium. All right, trustees, tonight Mr. Madison and I are going to discuss the future of the Tecumseh Community Memorial Pool, and what we're going to present to you is information that you heard last December, but it represents 3 distinct options, each with some different implications for our community. So most importantly, tonight we're going to share and we're going to make a recommendation as, regarding a path forward with the pool, as well as then a recommendation for how we meaningfully engage our community in this process. So, Mr. Madison, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you. As Mr. Hilton said, we've talked about these options the last couple months, along with some of the engineering that we brought to you guys. So we just want to go through and review some of this, and then we'll have some possible timelines and some recommendations in the coming slides. So the first is the 3 options of the path forward for the pool. As we talked about in previous months, option 1 was to do a selective demolition and rebuild. Essentially, this would be to remove all the current walls and roof, pretty much rebuild over everything, or take out everything except for the pool basin itself. Unfortunately, with this option comes a lot of risk, a lot of unknowns. We don't know a lot of things about what's in the ground, what's around that pool. So it definitely comes with some major risks. With that, there's a budget estimate of $15 million. For option 2, we have the demolition only, and this would be to remove the structure that is structurally compromised right now, with an estimated 12 to 18 month timeline. And then this could start as early as this summer or fall, depending on construction schedules and approvals. And this would also eliminate safety liabilities that the school has right now with the structurally compromised building, but it would not include any replacement facility, estimated at $2.3 million. And then option 3 would be a new competition facility. This would be for a state-of-the-art competition-sized pool, provides a safe facility for not only the swim teams, the community to use, with an estimate of $28 million. Couple points I want to make on these slides is both option 2 and 3 would require full demolition, so that would be included in either of those options would require that demolition. And I also want to make a point that those estimated costs are estimates. They are high-level estimates, and they're based on industry standard pricing, and they're also based on other similar pool projects around the state. The exact pricing we'll get into a few more slides when we start talking about the timelines. So why we're talking about this now, why we can't wait. Over the past few months, we provided the board with a lot of information. Kind of going through these bullet points here. Magnus Engineering, they've documented extensive laminar corrosion affecting nearly all the primary and secondary steel structure components supporting our roof. This progressive deterioration includes primary girders, columns, open steel webbing, and all structural connections. The corrosion causes subsurface swelling, so as you saw in the pictures, previous meetings, it does cause that delamination of the metal. It causes it to swell, so though it may look like it's full thickness metal, there is still a significant reduction in structural capacity to that steel. They have explicitly stated that remaining material thickness is misleading and that we can't rely upon those structural thicknesses as actual calculations. While an exact failure date cannot be predicted, Magnus does also say that the risk of a partial or progressive collapse rises over time, especially with snow loads or temperature cycling in the winter. So here we put together a sample timeline. This was provided by our architectural and engineering partners. If we were to move forward tonight, we're looking at 4 to 6 months for design and documentation. This would include feedback from the community through a committee that Mr. Hilton will talk more about here in later slides, and what some of our reconstruction options would be for that end of the building. We're looking at 4 to 6 months just for design and documentation, with another 2 to 3 which can overlap that step 1 for agency review and permitting. So this includes both for demo and any reconstruction. We'd have to have plan review for the building through building construction, or the Bureau of Construction Codes, which includes construction, electrical, mechanical. We'd also have to work with the Bureau of Fire Services for their approvals. And once approved by the state, then we would move into section 3, and this is where procurement and mobilization would happen. This is where we'd actually put out RFPs based on those state-approved drawings and get actual hard pricing on. These is where we bring these bids to the board for approval for hard pricing on the next steps, which would be demolition and reconstruction of whatever information is brought back by the committees. With board approval, you know, that's a 1 to 2 months we're talking for procurement. It would fall probably in, you know, July, August. We'd be looking at board approvals around September, if all goes well, with possible demolition work starting October, November, through the winter. And then with reconstruction, another 3 to 6 months, depending on, like I said, what those reconstruction options are. Total is about 12 to 18 months from the date the board authorizes us to go ahead. And like I said, we could possibly start this summer and fall. It just depends on the approval processes through the state. It depends on coordination with our contractors and availability. But definitely moving forward now, the early demolition reduces those long-term structural risks we talked about. If it's delayed beyond this summer, then we have to start talking about additional safety measures, which I believe are the next slide. So if the demolition is delayed on that building, Magnus Engineering has recommended implementing a comprehensive safety measure to that area, which would include erecting safety fence 20 to 30 feet from the pool building to prevent unauthorized access. It would involve closing down the courtyard at the middle school to everything except an emergency egress route. Access restrictions would continue like they are now, where it would be closed to all public. It would only be open to authorized staff and professionals. And then they would also recommend an ongoing monitoring, which is regular structural assessments, where they would come in and do further testing on the girders, the columns, any of the connection points, and they are recommending at a rate to every 3 to 6 months have that reevaluated. So our recommendation this evening would be to move forward with option 2. We know this is a difficult decision, but it represents the most responsible and prudent path. As you'll see, it eliminates the safety risks that we have right now with a structurally unsound building. It facilitates a thoughtful community engagement, which Mr. Hilton will touch on here shortly, and it avoids any hasty financial commitments without a full consideration of all the viable options. Mr. Hilton.
Thanks, Josh. So trustees, what would happen next if the board were to accept our recommendation? When Josh is referencing a community process, this is where the community would come in to our process. This is an important moment for us to engage the Tecumseh residents in a meaningful conversation about support for a potential new pool facility. An exploratory committee that I would organize would facilitate this dialogue and ensure that any future plans are both financially sound as well as reflective of the community's priorities. So in the meantime, I do want to make mention of our current Tecumseh Public Schools swim teams. Mr. Zajac and myself have had some conversations, and we are certainly going to continue to explore the continuation of our programs by finding pool time in other area school districts, much the same way we're currently doing, as well as have done in the past, as well as to have some conversations about the possibilities of a potential co-op team with other area school districts. It's a twofold approach in that we would look at both of those options so that we can do our very best to keep our swimmers in the water and competing. So I do want to take a moment just to acknowledge what the pool has meant to this community. It has meant certainly swim lessons starting at 6 months old, to PE classes for 200 students each marking period, to our Tiger Sharks and our middle school and our high school teams, to water aerobics, and to senior fitness programs, and I'm certain I didn't even mention them all, but there are a number of programs that serves our community, and the facility really does serve every stage of life. These programs, I do believe, represent real value, and it's worth recognizing all of the things the pool represents as we consider what comes next. So in terms of the numbers, I thought this might be helpful to you as well. They do tell a story. Over 500 swim lesson enrollments, more than 300 Tiger Shark members. This is over the last couple of years, knowing that it's been closed for part of that time as well. 63 student athletes, 200 plus students every day for, I'm sorry, using the pool every marking period. It is safe to say that the pool has served hundreds in our community. So in terms of envisioning how we move this forward, we would establish a superintendent-led exploratory committee with staff, athletes, parents, community representation. And this committee would lead an education campaign about the pool's history and impact. We would conduct a needs assessment. We would develop some transparent financial projections for the possibility of a new pool, and we would ultimately determine whether there's community support for a new facility. And if that support exists, certainly that would be a question that I would bring to you for consideration to put before the voters. And if not, then we certainly will have done our due diligence in engaging our community in an authentic process about what the pool means to our community. So to sum up, the pool has represented over the years a commitment to wellness and opportunity. I was trying to figure out how to sum it up best, and I would say it's a commitment to wellness and opportunity for many, many in our community. And this exploratory committee would really help us to understand if our community is ready to make this type of investment again. So Mr. Madison and I have laid out our recommendation. I imagine this raises some questions, concerns, thoughts that you might have. So he and I will pause here and we will open the floor for discussion.
Can the pool as it exists right now, does SLATE still cover that with insurance?
They are currently, as long as we're actively looking for solutions. So that's,
What's their timeline on that?
there's no set timeline on that yet. It's just as long as we're actively moving towards a solution.
Okay. So if we have a big snowstorm that dumps and caves in the roof, we're still covered?
At the moment, yes.
Okay. And then if we do build a new pool, what's the location for that?
That's part of what the committee will have to talk about and determine what that would
Do
look
we
like.
have one, I know we have that location up there was a possibility.
Right.
Do we have one on this site?
There could be, this could be a possible location as well. We do have the property for it. Yep.
Would that be south of the existing weight room now?
Possibly, yeah.
Okay, we don't know then where.
We don't know for sure, but that would be one location we could look at.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I'd said at a previous meeting, you know, we're kind of running out of runway, and I think, you know, we're at the end of the runway, right? We have to do something. And as district, right, what we're financially in a position to do is to address the unsafe building. In terms of moving forward, that remains a question for the community to answer. And so I think, you know, I say that to kind of put a point on the place we are, and I think it's not saying we don't want a pool and we're gonna demolish and close the pool, but, you know, there's a couple steps here. The first is that we have this building with critical safety issues that must be addressed immediately, and the option we can afford to do as a district is to close and demolish it. I certainly understand, you know, the questions raised in the public comment, and I think as a board, you know, we've kind of wrestled over the 3 years I've been here with those same questions of, well, why are we in this position, and how do we better maintain these facilities? And I think relative to where we were, there's been a lot of improvement. I commend Josh on that. I think he's done an excellent job of systematizing maintenance and our facilities. But we have to work from the place we are now, and the place we are now is that we have this unsafe building that must be addressed. I would love to see community support for a new competition center. I think it would be good for everybody, good for our students, good for our community, good for adults who want a safe place to swim. I think it's an asset, and I think marketed and sold to the community right, that's probably the best path forward, and I hope whatever decision we make tonight that people in the community can get excited about the possibility of coming together to build something new and exciting, and we as a district can continue to refine what we do to care for the facilities and maintain them so that they last and serve students well into the future.
Well said, Mr. Martinez.
Yeah, my comment is we need to move quickly because the safety protocols, if we don't, will affect the operation of the middle school. So if we have to fence off 20 to 30 feet, we could be affecting drop-off lines and different things related to that. So my one thing to say is to move quickly. Regarding this is really difficult for me to say because I have a swimmer, but regarding the community group that you put together, our buildings are not new. This is our newest building. The building that the pool is attached to has had, I don't know, the folklore is 16 add-ons. I think it's a lot less than that if you kind of look at the brick. But it's 70 years old. Yeah. Our elementary buildings are, the two that we are keeping for instruction are of similar age. Sutton is more like 60, but has had a tough life, I think, as a school building. And so as much as I would love to be kind of, yeah, let's go ask for a $28 million pool, I think this community is very prudent with its finances. I think our citizens are very prudent with their finances. We have an area plan that doesn't necessarily encourage high investment businesses that have higher tax revenue to come into our district boundaries, and community has supported that and made a decision to do that. So from that perspective, as a board member, I feel like I have to say, as a parent, I say, please build the pool, but it's not going to be built before my kid's senior year. But as a board member, I ask that from a prudence perspective in this community study, we have to talk about the holistic situation of the district and our buildings, and ultimately we are here first for that foundational education. Swim lessons and those kinds of things is foundational for safety, but there are other options. But our role is, we have to kind of prioritize. So I think we should have the discussion when the Building Futures Committee was there. There was a discussion of the pool. Mrs. Brooks and I were on that committee. We had a lot of discussion about the pool and what to do. That didn't pass. And so from the standpoint of having a stewardship responsibility to Tecumseh Public Schools and the Tecumseh community, I want to make sure first that when we have to ask our community for additional financial resources, that we're not asking for something that in the future when we need something else that maybe could be a higher priority than swim lessons and extracurriculars and those types of things, which are very important. Obviously, my family participates in it, that we do that. So I think that the committee should at least be somewhat made aware of what those risks are and what those costs could be, because we do have aging buildings, we are putting money away, we do have a small sinking fund, those are all great things. But eventually, one of those buildings, hopefully not all at the same time, but one is going to require something that requires a bond. And so I just, that would be my request to you, Mr. Hope.
Yep, I got it.
And when we had the Building Future Committee discussion, obviously, we didn't know
Yeah.
how bad a shape
No.
it was in.
Yeah.
They hadn't done the deep dive into what's behind the cement bricks or cement blocks. So even if we had gone that route, I think we would have come up short.
Well, and I mean, I'll tell you, since 2018, when maintenance about the pool has been discussed, it has been filters and heaters and boilers
Right.
and new scoreboards and
Dectron.
new diving boards and Dectron,
Yeah.
air quality, all important.
Right.
But I don't remember in my iterations of being a school board member that until my second round, and I was not appointed, I was by then, I think, elected, that we had actually talked about the structure of the building.
Right.
And so, which in hindsight, you know, I think situations are complex. And I think every community is different. And I think every community has a different mix of, again, those high capital businesses that under Michigan state tax statutes provide more funding than others. And so it's hard for me to say way back, well, I moved here in 2015, way back, you know, in the 90s or the early 2000s during when Michigan was hit hardest, I think, in the nation by the recession, or one of the hardest, that bad decisions were made by that board. But I don't sit on the board as Lynn Davis, I sit on the board as the board. So I understand that we have some responsibility to look into that, and if we build a pool or fix the tennis courts or whatever, we need to make sure that we can maintain it moving forward. And but I think, again, let's think about our primary responsibility in the full student body that we have and scholar body that we're taking care of them. So
I don't disagree with any of that, and I think it is important both to remember what our primary goal, primary purpose is. I do also think, though, that pool remains a connection between the community and the district that serves more roles than one. And one of the discussions over time, you know, has been, how do we get people who don't have a student here into the buildings? How do we get them engaged with the district such that they're a part of the conversation about building condition and about financial need? And I don't think we can spend $28 million to do that, but I do think acknowledging that that's part of what we get with that price is a connection between our students here and the members of our community who don't have a child in the district.
I have two groups of questions. The first one, if the pool was not there, at least in the long term, what are the thoughts around what would go in that space, at least in the meantime, if not long term? The reason I'm asking is because along with the demolition, you would have to do repair of the exterior wall, or what would be an exterior wall.
And I think that's part of what will come out of the conversations with this committee. We'll kind of steer what those drawings would look like. What do we want to put there? We need some feedback on that before we could say this is what for sure we're going to do.
but that's part But when you speak of reconstruction.
That's what that would be, but we don't know what that reconstruction is until we get some more feedback on what that would look like. Is it just, like you said, a wall and some green space, or is it some additional options, which, I mean, we need some feedback from both, staff and community to talk about what that would look like.
Yep. And certainly, we could speculate about various options from potentially, purely speculating, potential office space to classroom space to a community type playground, but those are just, to your point about getting community in, those are just speculative options, and at this point it would largely be green space as of this moment.
My second group of questions is regarding the timeline and the budget. So based on this timeline, it looks like we would effectively start now if it was approved. Is that correct?
We could, yeah, we would at
With
least start
step
with
one.
the design phase, yeah.
Okay. So how much of the estimated $2.3 million would cover steps 1 through 3?
I would have to get back. I don't have those exact dollars, but it would be a percentage it'd be based on the contracts we approve for architectural and construction. So I don't have those exact numbers in front of me, but I could get those for you.
So at what point would the RFQ come, that phase 3?
Yeah, so that would be, I believe that was phase 3, right after we get approvals from the state on site plans. Then the RFPs would go out for both demolition and any reconstruction efforts we have, and then those prices will come back to the board for approval. So you will get those actual prices.
Okay. So along that lines, I don't have the actual, what we would be voting on. What would be like the bullet points of what we would be approving
For
tonight if we went through with your proposal?
Tonight's recommendation would be to move forward with that option 2, which is in there, which would be to move forward with the complete demolition and then some type of reconstruction, but nothing will be purchased. The board will see those prices again before we actually approve anything like that. The board will have the final approval on moving forward with those bids. This is just giving us approval to go ahead with the design, to put this committee together, to get the approvals from the state, from Bureau of Construction Codes and from Bureau of Fire Services to move forward with putting those RFPs out. We can't put RFPs out and get pricing from any contractors without all of that completed first.
So tonight you're asking for steps 1 through 3 to be approved, not the full
Correct.
5.
Yeah, that would be just the option 2 to move forward. And then, like I said, you guys will see those bids as they come in on those RFPs, and you will have final approval before we move forward to those next steps.
Thank you.
I want to maybe clarify something.
Yeah, please do.
If we vote for option 2, we are voting to demolish the pool. Subsequent votes will be on the amount to demolish the pool. So we aren't voting for planning, we are voting to demolish
Yes,
if we choose option 2.
correct.
Well, I mean, we'd have to demolish any option, but if we pick option 2, we are voting for full demolition and reconstruction of the wall and the site,
Right.
cleanup of the site, and formation of the committee. I just want to make sure
Correct.
everybody.
Yeah, and maybe
Okay.
I guess I misunderstood a little bit, but yes, this would be voting for that full demolition of the pool. But you guys will, like you said, subsequent bids, you guys will see that before we move forward with any contractors to actually do the work.
So what happens if the RFQs come back at, just making up a number, $5 million instead of 2.3? So we would have already approved that, essentially, and.
You've approved the process, but not the actual bids. Like I
But
said.
that's not what Lynn's saying. Lynn's
No,
saying we're
that
approving the
is-
whole thing.
That is exactly what I'm saying. We are approving the process to demolition the pool. Now, if that happens realistically, we have a safety concern and we have to demolish that pool. So if it comes back $5 million, Mr. Madison's gonna have some work on his hands.
Right.
But
We're going to have a big bake sale.
But, to go through the process of going to the state for approval, he has to have board approval to say, yeah, our intent is to demolish that pool. Under our policies, we still have to approve the costs of that. If it comes back at $5 million, then we have to have some tough conversations. But regardless, we have to demolish that pool because it's no longer safe. And if we leave it up for much longer, our insurance company will not continue to cover it. So
Correct.
I think that's what we're trying, right, that you can
Yep.
start those steps with the intent to demolish.
That would
Maybe
be
that's
the
a better way to say
intent.
it.
I guess, yeah, that would be the intent to demolish, and as Lynn said, you guys would have final say on the actual bids when they come in, which way we go. And like I said, our estimates right now are 2.3, could be less, could be a little more. Again, these are based on, standards, the industry standards. There's no hard numbers here yet, but we've got some time. That's another reason we'd really like to get moving on this, because that gives us some time to get these RFPs out and get to contractors, before it gets to be springtime of next year or whatever, and they're all booked up, and then prices go up. We're trying to get the best pricing we can also.
Yeah, my concern is just, and I know it's semantics, but I want to make sure that we fully understand and that everyone understands what we would be fully approving. I mean, for me, approving an intent to demolish and approving the demolition are two separate things.
Right.
It's like you get the whole package there, and I understand that we kind of need to do something in that area for safety reasons. I've said this at other times. I just feel like number signs are adding up, and maybe we're making decisions kind of like went out for a vote along with the sinking fund that here's the amount to refurbish the pool, and now it's kind of like it's been closed for a while. So I just want to make sure that we have the facts lined up before we
Sure.
sign off on the whole kit and caboodle.
So that's one question I have, Josh. So the funds to demolish the pool are gonna be coming from the sinking fund that we asked for approval for fixing the pool, correct?
Correct.
So as a board and as part of the committee that we're gonna work with, I would think it would be better off to get that committee going with public input, because they're the ones that approved the money to fix the pool, not to tear it down. And I haven't heard any input from the community that they are acceptance of a pool being torn down by using the sinking funds, because that's not what we asked for. And I know circumstances change, but I do think we were kind enough to go out and ask, and they were kind enough to offer it to us to fix the pool, and now circumstances have changed. Why can't we put together an urgent committee to gather public input and say, hey, this is the circumstances we're under. It's not what none of us like it, right? That's a fact. But we did ask for the money for something else. So I think as a, part of being on the board, I do think that is part of the process. I know it's not, timing is urgent, so we need to get their input and we'll know more, but I think that would be a fair way to go, is my opinion. So I just, I know, like I said, it's terrible, but if my dad growing up gave me $100 to go put gas in my truck, and I took the $100 and went and spent it on something else, I knew when I got home I was gonna get my hand slapped. I kinda feel the same way here, right? So, that's my opinion.
I mean, I understand what Trustee Miller is saying, and I support it. I would say, we can delay one meeting, but we probably can't delay anymore, because we also have to make a decision on the recreation millage. And so in order to make a decision on the recreation millage, we have to make a decision on the pool. And so what I would ask Mr. Hilton to do is, I don't know if a committee is the right format or if it's a survey. Let's get it out there. But unfortunately, that's the funding we have. How sinking funds work versus bonds is that in a bond, you have to state very specifically what you're using the money for, and you can't use it for anything else. A sinking fund has some flexibility. It is unfortunate that we are not using it for what we said we were, and I think as a board, eventually we have to review how much we collect, because also in a sinking fund, we don't have to collect the whole thing every year. And maybe we have to go back out to the community if we do need to keep collecting, to say, here's why we're collecting it. This is a change from our initial idea, but I actually think we should be doing that anyway. We should be communicating regularly to the community how we're spending that sinking fund.
But didn't we, Didn't we advertise on this exactly?
I know we
the
did,
demo?
I know we did. I'm not disagreeing with you.
Well, I thought I heard you say you could spend it differently.
You can, we advertised
but
as
is
a,
is that the
I'm
right thing to
stating
do?
the state law. So what I would say is, I absolutely agree with you, but we need to do it quickly. We need to do it quickly. Because we have a February 10th guideline for the recreation millage. Now, we can flip it and say, we're pretty sure where we're gonna go with this pool, so we're not gonna do the recreation millage and have a little bit more time. But
What-
ultimately, we have to have a plan and start moving.
So what is it that we're asking here? I guess, so, as I understand it, the option to not do the demolition of this pool, option one, would still require, you know, from here, some $15, $16 million that, I mean, is the question we're asking whether the community, I feel like we're getting into a circle here. I don't,
We still have to I think what trustee Martinez is saying is, we're gonna still use around $2 million
to do the
demolish something.
demolition, no, almost no matter what, right?
And
Like,
and let me clarify your comment. From a lead time perspective due to safety, that 15 million would have to be a bond anyway.
right.
So like, I get, what I think probably what trustee Miller is probably inferring in his comment though is, if we're gonna say we're gonna go out for a bond, then at least we're going to do something with the pool that keeps a pool. Versus option two is, we're gonna spend portions of the sinking fund, which we did. We told the community, one of the reasons we were asking for it, he's absolutely right, that we were going to fix the pool.
So
But we're not rebuilding it, so there's kind of a spirit difference.
So the
between the
question then that
options.
we would be asking is, are we going after a $16 million bond immediately to pursue option one? Is that, I mean, am I understand,
Or is there funding that could come in to help us pay for the demolition and the funding for because we haven't done that. I think we had a couple community members come in and talk about reaching out to them and putting together a team to try to come up with funding for it. And I think, maybe I'm speaking a little out of terms, but I'd like to understand a little bit more on the insurance policy and the emergency part of it. So the building's empty. There's 0 people in that building. So I'd like to understand, what is the liability from the insurance side specifically? What is the policy that they've written that says that we're in this urgent situation that we have to make a decision now?
It is attached to our building where our students are daily.
And they play in the playground next to it.
Yeah, this isn't
I mean, we
an
could close
option.
the playground, I think we could close the playground.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
I certainly understand that it was not the spirit of asking for a sinking fund to tear down the pool. Obviously, that was not the intent. I also firmly believe that if we had put the money into the pool only to find out that it was going to come falling down on us anyway, that would have been a serious misstep. So while I'm not happy about it, no one's happy about it, I don't really see where we have any other choice at this point.
But I think the compromise is, when we talked about building closures, the second time, and we talked about bringing 7th and 8th graders into the high school, Mr. Hilderly did a survey through the community, and it came back overwhelmingly very clear what we needed to do. And so, that was a little bit, we needed to make those choices, but I agree that we need to do it quickly, but I think the timeline is much shorter unless we just, as a board, decide we're not gonna pick up a rec millage because we know the future. And so then that might give us maybe 2 or 3 more board meetings where we could get community input.
Josh, for phase one, assuming we had the money and we had approval today to go with number one, what's the timeline on executing that? Rough ballpark.
That's a hard one. So I think that one, unfortunately, coming up with a timeline probably would be 12 to 18 months, but with that one, there's a lot of unknowns. So with that, we don't know what's in the ground. We don't know anything about, there's no original drawings for that. There's a lot of risks that come with that that could end up putting us right back up to that $28 million option.
And how old is that pool?
It was built in 87, so 35, 36 years old now.
Okay, so the pool itself would probably have to be resurfaced potentially now or very soon anyways, because
You're
they have
talking
like
tile
25.
inside the pool and all
Well,
of
just
that,
the resurfacing of the, I'm assuming concrete is in there and some stuff like that. Yeah, it's 25 to 40 year lifetime
Yeah, I mean,
without
generally
being
they say
repaired.
35 years, you should be retiling and
Yep,
and
exactly.
redoing that anyway.
Yeah, so there's probably some additional costs that are there anyways.
Yep.
But with that being said, I just don't, I want to make sure we're clear about where our actual pain points are. So the pain point is really around safety. I don't want it to be around the recreational millage, because if that has to lapse and we have to request a new one, that's one thing, but none of these options have the pool running at a TPS facility in the next 12 months or next 18 to 12
I would
months
say closer to
or more.
3 to
Right.
4 years.
Right, so either way, the recreational millage is a moot point for any three of these options.
You know, the other option is you're right. I mean, if we're not gonna do it, then we should make that decision. But I think that's, we've kind of landed on, we have to demolish, get community support to rebuild. I don't think anybody at the table is saying we don't wanna rebuild, but the history of passage of debt in this community is very difficult.
I understand, I just want to make sure that we're not trying to force a decision this very minute, at this very meeting, because of an operational millage that has a February 10th date.
I'm not worried about the millage. I think you're mistaking what I'm saying. I think we can make a decision, like you're stating, about the recreation millage, that we don't need it. And we just all go with that understanding. But take that away, even if we didn't have the rec millage, let's say the pool made enough money on its own to cover its upkeep, which I don't know if it ever has. I haven't lived here long enough to know. But we do have a safety concern, and we have a timeline. Demolition is not fun in the winter. The more we push this out, the further the other safety issues we have on a site that's frozen, that's cold, that's whatever else. If you look at the timelines, so I understand all the cost concerns. I understand the sinking fund, because I feel like if we could do it with other money, we wouldn't ask to use the sinking fund money, and I would want to have some discussions about the sinking fund money and how we use it and how we go back out and talk about it. But we are at the end of what the first engineering company told us we could keep it open. And I had an old boss. He always said, "Lynn, think about the headline." And I think about what the headline could be, and that it could be really bad. It could be really dire. I've had businesses I've worked with that have had walls collapse, roofs collapse because of maintenance, because things weren't done. I don't want that on any person that sits at this table's heart or head. And so, I'm okay to delay to do a survey, but forming a committee and having a meeting and doing all those things, unless the parent advisory committee could do it. I think it's good to get all of our ducks in a row if we can do that, but time is of the essence, in my opinion, and that's the last thing I'm gonna say about it.
And that's, my hesitation is coming full circle and starting the argument of what do we do again, right? over several years, been gathering information and talking about possible options. And, you know, I think getting community opinion and input and direction is essential. But we need to really refine the question that we're asking then, because we are at the end of time to debate. So if we're going to delay a decision now to take something back to the community, then, you know, that should be a specific question that we're answering, not reopening the where do we go from here discussion, because we only have one of three options left, right?
Correct.
I mean, and we're looking at them already.
Josh, we couldn't even, the testing like that, sonic testing we just had, we had to have sinking fund money to even do the testing, correct?
Correct.
Because of the cost of that?
Correct. And that wasn't something originally planned. Like you said, we went out, you know, with all intention of making those repairs based on the engineering reports we had from the first company that was back in, I was at 21, 22 when that came in. But like I said, with our team went in there, and once they started looking at these girders, they really had some hesitations and wanted to look further. And that's how we got where we are now, which, as Ms. Brooks said too, I mean, it's good that we're doing this in a phased approach and actually looking at this, because, you know, heaven forbid we would have put $2.5 million into a roof to find out the wall columns are bad.
But I guess my point is, just over the past 4 years, we've spent well into six figures just trying to figure out what we have based on different, you know, we had the engineers came in, yep, no, it's good, no, close it down, no, we're sorry, just kidding, you can put people back in there. It's been difficult. I mean, it's not your fault, it's not our fault. I mean, it just, to get that, there's only so many companies that can come in and do those type of assessments. There's not a whole lot of civil engineering firms that jump into that, especially with structural steel. And it was just slow, it was tedious, and then we got the worst option. I don't want to see us try and build anything without community support. We just had that, we just did that for the last 35 years. It didn't work so well, because we were taking money out of this school's operating budget to help to get that through. Didn't start that way, but it's a cost of everything went up over 35 years. And with the city not putting in the millage that they had before, that renewing their millage, it cost us. It just did. I mean, it's a bad deal. I mean, it's not a bad deal. Nobody did us wrong. It just is what it is. The lady who was here, I don't know where she went, but yeah, that should have been maintained a lot better over the last 35 years, but it wasn't. 35 years ago, I didn't even work here, you know. So it predates. My kids took swimming lessons there when it was a brand new pool, and so those are the things we're up against. When you get the estimates for this, are you getting input from our project engineer as well, or does this strictly fall on you?
You're talking about the estimates on these?
Yeah,
right here? That is from our architectural and engineering partners.
Okay.
That is, they went out, they looked at multiple other projects that are going on in the state. They looked at square footage averages, so that comes right from our architects and engineers.
Perfect.
That's not from me.
All right, thank you.
When I first got on the board, I read a lot of law, and I think there's a limit on how many mills you can take out on a recreational millage. And I think we need to know that, even before you start the committee, because, and if I remember correctly, from what I read, reading all the legislature stuff, I think it was 3 mills, but if you already had a half mill out, you only could do 2.5, and there was years on it. So, because 3 mills will not cover a new pool, I'm telling you that right now. So I think we need to find that out, right away, because I do believe there's a limit on how many mills you can go out for recreational. Now, I know other schools like Jackson, they passed a big millage, but it wasn't recreational. It was for the whole district, so and included the pool stuff in it. So if we're looking at recreational, I think there's limits on how much you can do, I believe. But again, this was almost 8 years ago when I read that, so, and the law could have changed, or I could just be out in left field, but I really do believe there's a limit on that. So.
I will find that answer for sure. So trustees, if I can take just a minute here and see if I can say some of this back to you aloud, given my role. I think some of our discussion has recognized, our discussion has recognized certainly that we have some very real safety concerns, particularly that exacerbate if we delay. That delay could eventually impact bus drop-off, pickup, parent drop-off, pickup, ingress and egress to the building, play structures, childcare, because childcare uses that end of the, depending on what were to happen, childcare uses that end of the building. There's some classes that get taught down there at the end of the building that would then all need to be planned for based upon whatever it is that was to happen. So then the question that I think has come up now is, back in the fall of 2024, we shared with the community a need for a sinking fund that included the replacement of the existing roof on the structure to 12 months later being in a very different place that we have just recognized. So I would want to ask the question to you, is the survey question then a question that says to the community, essentially painting the picture of while we initially had planned to replace the roof on our pool, a set of circumstances has since ensued that brings us to our place in time. Are you now in a place where you are supportive of the Tecumseh Public Schools Board of Education using the sinking fund dollars to essentially demo the pool for the many of the reasons that we have discussed this evening? Is that the underlying question that we're trying to get at?
I don't think so.
I don't-
because we can't.
We don't have
if
any
that
other
pool
way to
falls
fund
and
it.
kills someone, okay, there's a whole nother issue there.
Yeah,
So
I mean, let's not ask a question that we can't act on the potential answers
Right.
of.
Yeah,
And I
mean,
guess that's what I'm driving at too, right?
Yeah, I would say, the more we talk, the more I realize we don't have a choice.
Well,
Yeah.
so I'm asking it the way I'm asking it intentionally, because to be clear, I don't believe we have a choice either.
And that's,
Because we're gonna ask an opinion and then do it anyway. And I
Right.
know we don't, none of us like that.
Well, because if we opt for 2 or 3, it comes with a millage, and you can't guarantee that that's gonna get approved.
Pass, right,
So,
and we still gotta take,
Right.
we still gotta take it down.
and we're still stuck with, right, we still have the critical safety issues, we still have the insurance cancellations and the impact on the middle school operations that must be quickly dealt with. And
This is what we get elected for.
Yeah.
right, to make the
No one
decision.
wants to do it.
Right, because in the end, if we go back and we ask this question, are you okay if we use the sinking fund, and the survey result is no, what
We
is
still
our
have to do it.
plan then
Right.
from
We
here?
still have to do it.
Right, sitting on this unsafe building, where are we going next? And
We're probably, what,
I
half
mean,
of
I
our
think
students
we
go?
need to engage the community about what the future looks like.
Correct.
Yep.
But independent of that, we've got to get the safety issue on the middle school campus addressed.
I think the discussion was very helpful, right? I do even for myself, I'll admit it. So one, my point is the recreation millage has nothing, timing should not have anything to do with the decision of what we're gonna do demolishing the pool. That's gonna stop. Secondly, I think at the same time, letting the community know that you have factual safety data. So we've got information from the builder that says it is a safety risk, and that it sounds like we have risk from an insurance company telling us that you got risk there. So you have to make a decision, right? But I also think at the same time, we need to be very quickly supportive to the community of what do you want to do next, right? We know in the
Absolutely.
past, like Lynn said, that these things haven't been well received for whatever reason. But it sounds like the more and more we talk about this, we're starting to get more and more community involvement, which is what we want, that there is an interest in a pool. More than what I thought from the very beginning. First meeting we were talking about, there's nobody here, right? Now we're starting to see people here, and you're starting to feel that interest. So I think that, and the way you just worded it, Matt, I think was very helpful, that, yeah, we probably do need to make the decision to move forward with it. The question is, do we also put a limit that any spending above this amount needs, you know, a lot of times in the business world, you put a limit, say, okay, the board approves it based on a not to exceed amount. And anything below that.
But that's the second set of voting.
Right.
Second, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
when he does the RFP and comes back with options, in the motion, we can say not to exceed the amount in the RFP. But, yeah,
But tonight's motion you specified was for the whole everything.
but
Tonight, we're just making a decision on those three options that he had up there. That's it,
so my
In their entirety.
experience.
in their entirety.
My experience with engineering estimates is that it takes a whole lot for them not to be somewhat accurate.
Well, they struggled to answer any of my financial questions when they were here about the numbers that they created. So
I think all that we can vote on tonight is if we agree that we move forward with demolition of the pool and the committee to study a new pool structure. And then with each RFP, we will vote on the amounts. We all have the engineering estimates, so if they are not near the engineering estimate, we should ask those difficult questions that we need to ask. And we see where the vote goes.
Agreed.
But thank you all for the conversation. I
Yes,
think
it was
a
very helpful.
good, conversation, and I want to reiterate again, I agree with Trustee Miller. We push the pool hard for the sinking fund, and so, but I also know this community and our children's safety is foremost, and so I'm hopeful that they'll forgive the board that we had to make this tough decision, and we found it during due diligence, so, you know, that's the way.
Like I said, I'm really glad that we found it before we put $2 million into a roof and then found out it was useless, so.
And I think too, we've kind of rested on, we're not doing a recreation village.
Or put solar panels up.
Right, right.
I would like to see the motion split into two still. I would only like to do through 3A, which would be through getting the RFQ. So taking it in steps as far as approval versus everything. That's my personal opinion.
I think we vote on the motion as written, and if it doesn't pass, then we can do that. We can talk about that.
But first, we're going to talk about Committee of the Whole.
Okay. Phew. I wasn't expecting that long of a. So I had brought this to the board again. I just, because now it is Mrs. Brooks' responsibility to set committees for the 2026 calendar year for the Board of Education. I wanted to talk about just strictly the Budget Committee and going to Committee of the Whole. I think the discussion we just had and the points actually that Trustee McGee has brought up highlight why we're at a juncture as a board where it maybe makes sense for us to try Budget Committee of the Whole. And the reason I feel that is this: we have to make some really tough, we're gonna have to vote on some expenditures this year and into the next year. And we all need to be involved in everyone's questions and conversations. And in my history with the board, I've been on the Budget Committee, off the budget, was on it temporarily for Mr. While we were waiting to find our seat. But I would say through that, I don't think we've had a situation, at least I haven't, as I said on the board, Mrs. Brooks and Mr. Simpson maybe did, where we have such serious financial decisions to make, and we have to strengthen our stewardship even more than we already have, to where my opinion is that it makes sense for us to do it as a committee of the whole so that we all are getting the information at the same time. We all hear everyone's questions and comments directly, so that we're not kind of getting meeting minutes depending on who takes them and all that kind of stuff. As well as, because we record these meetings, and they're at a time and quite frankly a venue that makes it much easier for our community to join, that doing a budget committee of the whole seems like this is the right time to do it. And so, you know, you always have we have the right and privilege as the board, if we feel like it's not working out, to discuss, do we go back to a separate committee that then comes to the table. But, you know, we do have 2 meetings a month, so one meeting can be the report out of something related to budget committee, and then the second meeting, or the meeting after that, however it gets scheduled, Mr. Hill, would be where we vote. So, you know, I feel like that's just my 2 cents. I wanted to bring it up at this meeting mainly because now Mrs. Brooks, sitting as president, has to determine the committees, so.
Well, we've had some discussion previously about doing committee of the whole, and budget committee was the one that was discussed. There was some pros and cons. At this juncture, I think, for all the reasons you stated, we've got a lot of big things coming up that we're gonna have to have a lot of discussion around, as we just did. I think it makes sense. And I think it offers some transparency. So, other thoughts?
Why don't we just record the meetings?
What's that?
Why don't we just record the meetings?
Record.
Well, I think
Because the meetings themselves could go very long, could be several hours depending on what's being discussed.
Are you talking about the committee meeting?
I'm talking about the budget committee
but I think,
topics.
Yeah, it shouldn't be that long. But go ahead, Lynn, sorry.
I mean, it could go long. I mean, Mr. Simpson kept me here till 11:30 midnight some nights when I was on the board during a certain historical time frame. So, but I did it.
We're not doing
And
that.
I got up the next morning on the first flight to But anyway, what I was gonna actually say is, I understand what you're saying, and that is an option, but I think the discussion we just had is an example of the benefits we get when all 7 of us are discussing a situation. So I think there's pros and cons. I just feel like this also allows, you know, when you sit on a committee and you hear it in committee and then you come to the table, sometimes you don't share all the things you shared at the committee table. But I think, especially in the last discussion for me, you know, I was able to think about it with everybody's discussion coming into it. And so I just, you know, it's an idea. I do have a question, because I have not had a chance to check it, but in our board policy, do we share that is there any need to vote on that? I'm not sure that we would need to vote to go to committee of the whole, but we could.
I think we should. Honestly, policy-wise, I don't know. But I think as a matter of course, I think it's a good idea.
Yeah, so,
I think the policy just says the board can form committees.
Yeah, ad
That's
hoc
kind of
committees.
what I
whatnot,
remembered
yeah.
too, is that it wasn't delineated.
but I think it does show visually that we're in some agreement if we decide to go that direction.
Right.
So how would that look? I mean, would we have a meeting at 5 o'clock that would be the once a month, it's the committee of the whole for budget?
That's what I was thinking. What were you thinking?
And then that's got a hard stop at 6?
I mean, I've heard a couple of, one is you can do that, the other one is you have a board meeting where it's discussion of just what would happen in the budget committee, and then the next meeting would be a vote. Now, that's gonna be longer, because the budget committee typically goes about an hour,
Right.
because of the number of things that we have to look at and discuss. So, we could decide to start at 5, or we could say, we just all know we're gonna be here a little later on that Monday. To those that are on the budget committee now, they're spending that time in the month anyway.
Right.
To those of us that were not on the budget committee, that's an additional time commitment.
I would think if we want to encapsulate it as part of the board meeting, I'd rather have the board meeting start at 5 then. So
You're the president. You can decide whatever you want.
Facilitate your life.
I've been this for an hour and 30 minutes, so give me a minute to get used to it. But I mean, certainly I think that should be a group discussion about what do you all think as far as, do you want to do it as a committee of the whole? And then do you want to do it as a, like she said, if we start at 5 like we would with any other committee meeting, but a hard stop at 6? Or do you want to encapsulate it as part of the program?
I like committee as a whole. I prefer all the committees as a whole, but we talked about that a year ago, but 5's fine by me. I mean, yeah, I don't, whatever you want, so.
5
You're
to
probably
6.
the hardest one to get here, so.
I don't know.
Yep.
So I've been kind of laissez-faire about the committee of the whole discussion, but I actually agree with Lynn, the discussion tonight, you know, having multiple people engaged and giving opinions, I think, helps to really refine the conversation. And so I think for budget, this may be, as she said, the time to do it. You know, as far as the start time, I think for public attendance, might the 5 o'clock be a little limiting?
That's my concern.
That was my concern. You know, that starting at 6 allows people to get out of work, make whatever arrangements and get here. So I guess my preference would be that we continue to start at 6.
Okay. And are you saying continue the board meeting at 6 and put the committee meeting within the board meeting? Okay,
correct.
just making sure.
That would be my view on it.
Okay.
Yeah, I like that idea, and I think you're exactly right. The reason for me to see us do it is to get more community involvement. And I think it is hard now because we have 3, Tim brought it up a year ago, the way we have it now, you have 3 different meetings, plus you have this meeting. Really hard for families or anyone to dedicate time to come to all those meetings. But if you have it as one, it's gonna be harder, longer for us, but hopefully it invites more people to come to it and share some opinions.
Okay.
And so.
I'm not in favor of committee as a whole for the budget. There's a lot of details and there's a lot of things that go through. And like for this meeting, we at least get some of the documents in advance. We may or may not get documents in advance for the budget. So sometimes we're walking in there, not even having a chance to review the information and getting a stack of paper, going through those, asking a lot of detailed questions. And I have no problem with visibility to that. Like I said, I still think even these meetings, we should put on Zoom and record them or whatever tool, and it should be out there and available immediately. And then I referenced a tool that I use. There's other tools out there, but we use Avoma at my office, and that does meeting notes, key summaries, key takeaways, those kind of things, a lot of other notes. So I think part of the gap that might be felt is the limited nature of the notes that are being provided to open session. So I would rather have open session be focused on decisions and evaluations and things like that, and kind of iron out some of the facts and the details and the reports and the numbers ahead of time. Also, the reason the budget committee got moved to the 3rd week was based on when the financials could be done on a regular basis, and maybe with Darcy, with you here, maybe we can get them done by the 1st week of the month or something instead of like further on. But that was the reason it got moved out in January, I think it was. So that was the reason for that timing. So if we were, for example, to push that to the 2nd meeting of the month, you know, you would just need to be able to close the books and get all the reporting done and everything within that time amount, kind of thing. Or we're going to be running in arrears even more, and you know, basically pushing it out to the 2nd meeting of the month. So
That's a good point.
I mean, what I'm hearing is it's an opportunity to make us a little bit better on our documentation too.
Mhm.
So, I understand all that Trustee McGee is saying, but again, the decisions that we have to make, I think it's important that we are, in my opinion, that we're all at the kind of the foundational beginning of every discussion. So, but like I said, I'll follow the board. If I need to be on the budget committee and have a budget committee meeting, I'll do it. But it does seem to be that this concept is growing in the state with other school districts, and so And from those presentations that I saw, they all saw a benefit, so I wanted to bring it to the board and also do it, you know, at this juncture, just because that's when we're determining committees.
Right. So I think let's put it on for an action item next meeting. It sounds like it makes the most sense, and, you know, obviously we should talk to Darcy and just make sure, but it sounds like it would make the most sense if we do act on it, that we would do it the second meeting. So those would be the things to kind of think about when we come to action on our next meeting.
One
Yeah.
question, I think too, Matt, you had mentioned that if we went to this, it would allow you a little bit more time, because right now we're basically out every 2 weeks having meetings. It's hard to prepare everything in advance. So the one thing we had talked about is, do we go to a 1-month meeting to allow Matt more time to prepare so we can get the information before, just kind of answer some of Lynn's, or I mean, so it's something to think about. I'm not saying
Yeah. As I recall, we did have that discussion. We can certainly discuss it again. There was a reason that we went that way originally, and, I mean, does it still make sense? We can have that discussion.
In the matter of going to one meeting a month, having sat on a board that went one meeting a month and one that went two, I would say right now, because of the level of decisions that we have to make, the 2 meetings a month is beneficial. If we were in a steady state kind of situation, because I remember feeling like we needed more board meetings,
Right.
but we only did it once a month, and we like rushed a study session beforehand, so, I mean, everybody think about it. Again, I just feel like at a juncture right now, our community, it benefits our community, and I would like more community input into how I want them to know.
Right.
I want clarity to the community about how we spend money and how we all are thinking about it.
And sometimes if you can't make one meeting, you can make the other. I mean, there's arguments both ways, for sure.
So but I think it's not an emergency.
No.
So we don't have to. I think one question though is that the third week is next week, so are we asking the former budget committee at least to meet in January?
I would say no. Let's hold off and unless there's something pressing.
So I think one of the pieces that is important to me is in terms of our twice monthly board meetings, is when the actual first meeting falls relative to our ability to close out the prior month to then be able to report out to you all, which is going to most likely necessitate a budget committee of the whole as part of the second board meeting of the month, which isn't necessarily wrong or bad. We do have a budget committee meeting, the way we know it as is, scheduled a week from tonight, with then a report 2 weeks from tonight to the full board. And what I think I'm hearing us say is that we would consider this for the next 2 weeks, continue these 2 weeks with our current structure, and then vote on it in 2 weeks, knowing that a committee of the whole for budget would almost always occur at the second meeting of the month. I just want to be
Well, as far
explicit about that.
as answering what needs to happen for January, absolutely, I think it needs to continue as is, for the reason of making sure that we have the full budget explanation and everything there, vetted out, ready to go for the next meeting of the month, which would also include the formal budget amendment proposal. So I think that is
Are we ready for that, though?
January must.
We will be, yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I won't be there. I'm going to Florida. So, sorry.
Well, you're not treasurer anymore,
That's right.
so maybe then,
Yeah.
I mean,
Is it
we can
something?
name 3 board members. I think Mrs. McGee is one that needs to be there. We can name 2 other board members to do the January budget committee in preparation for January. So that's,
Part of the committee discussion.
probably you. So that's 2.
Yeah.
So we need a third.
So part of the
Okay,
committee
I will.
discussion, I was going to ask
Find
for
out the-
for everyone to email me their committee requests so that we can get those done.
Okay.
So all committees currently are needing to be formed.
Shall we move on to action items?
What's that?
Shall we move on? Is everyone okay? Can we move on to action items?
Please.
All right, so that takes us to action items. Mr. Martinez.
Hey, I move to approve and accept with thanks and appreciation the donation from McDonald's to the Tecumseh High School Athletic Department.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Ms. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Our next action item?
I move to approve option 2, demolition only of the Tecumseh Community Memorial Pool.
Second.
Roll call vote. Mrs. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. McGee?
Nay.
Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. Moving on to consent agenda.
All right, I move to approve the consent agenda, which includes minutes from the regular Board of Education meeting from December 8th, 2025.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved and seconded. Roll call vote. Mr. Martinez?
Aye.
Mrs. Davis?
Aye.
Ms. McGee?
Aye.
Mr. Simpson?
Aye.
Mr. Lewis?
Aye.
Mr. Miller?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. That takes us to the superintendent goal setting.
Okay, trustees, tonight's superintendent report is some goal-setting work. This is less of a formal report and more of an initial discussion, if you will. So I do believe that effective superintendent goals should align with our district's priorities, be measurable, and focus on areas where leadership can have the greatest impact. And so that is the nature of our conversation this evening. We have talked in the past about the potential for setting some formal goals for me from the board. So as we organize our discussion, I think it's important that we focus on the domains of student achievement and growth, organizational management and public school finance, community and stakeholder engagement, staff development and culture, to name a few, and then of course would certainly want to have the conversation of the priorities or domain areas that you would suggest as well. And just in doing so, I think it's important to note that those goal areas are also essentially the 5 goal areas of our existing strategic plan. So with that in mind, my goal here this evening is primarily to have a conversation, to listen and understand what your priorities are and expectations that you have for me for the 26 calendar year. I'll be taking some notes, looking for themes, and after I hear your input, I'll think about your input connected to areas that I see as professional growth for myself, and I'll bring back some proposed goals to our next meeting for further discussion. So for now, with that context, I'll pause here and open it up for discussion.
Well, I think one of the things that, you know, has come up a little bit here, and I think remains really important, is finding ways to connect the community and the district. And finding ways to get people into our buildings. You know, I think our schools during the day are locked down. They're removed from the rest of the community for safety reasons. Not to knock that, it's how things are, but we should be pursuing ways of, you know, opening the doors when we can and bringing people in as much and as often as we can.
I'm not going to say development item, but something To Mrs. McGee's earlier point about checking and vetting. The checking and the vetting, honestly, of budget and reports is actually not a board job. But we have taken on that role for various reasons over the years. So I think in conjunction with Mr. Lewis now as your treasurer, and maybe Mrs. McGee, who's been involved in a very detailed manner for a long time, first as public and then as a board member, putting a clear process in place for that and clear checks that both you and Darcy understand and agree upon, and that should include a schedule to get to the board the information sooner. I think that's been a perennial issue for the Board of Education, regardless of its makeup. It's been a problem for a long time to get that information to us so that we could ask questions and look at it with enough time to kind of sense check for ourselves. And the development of those tools, after you build those processes and procedures, development of tools that the board can utilize to kind of build that trust foundation in the good work that Darcy is doing and will continue to do and that you're doing in the district.
I'd like to see, I know we talked about a business class, but I'd like to see more business classes, CTE, some just general accounting, to be honest with you, so someone actually knows what a debit and a credit is and how to read a balance sheet and a profit and loss statement. I would like to see more of those skills kind of classes, but just, I know CTE was a big part of the strategic plan, and I just feel like we haven't really, we got one computer class, you know, or maybe a couple of them, but we just didn't get a big of a hit on it is what I would have liked, so, yeah.
I think to that end too, there are some courses that make sense to bring here, and there are some to continue to have them at the tech center, and I think you solidifying your leadership in the county for discussions about that with fellow school superintendents and with LISD and their board of what we see our students needing, and what we think could be a large enough need in the county that maybe there's some review of things at tech as well.
Right.
I'd like to see a regular dashboard of metrics in all of the key areas that you mentioned, and I can come back to you with specific thoughts specifically around the financial numbers that we've gathered from other places, and then you can take it from there. But I know this is kind of all lumped into one, but I think the strategic planning effort is going to be extremely significant to the level of the sinking fund prep or more. I think we need to level up the offerings as well as experience here at TPS so that we are ready for the next millennial. I mean, we're already essentially behind at this point. We need to, at a minimum, get caught up and get our students ready. So I think there's a lot of things that are involved in there, and I'm not even sure that we would be able to accomplish the timeline per se. I'm not sure exactly what the timeline was with our quote, but we may have to go beyond that to get more research in certain areas or something. I just want to make sure that we are setting our students up and our team members up for success within the next 5-ish years or whatever time frame that results in. And honestly, we need to think beyond that 5-year time frame. So I think there's going to be a lot of studies, potentially a lot of separate groups maybe involved in doing some research behind that. And if we can get some initial scoping around that whole project, I think maybe you could put some milestone and like more to-dos around your actions and goals for the year.
Okay, thank you.
I'd like to see
Okay.
just a little bit more, we haven't had a PR person now since Vic. Not that you don't do a good job at it, but when you're doing that, you're not doing superintendent stuff. I'd like to see something that would capture what some of the things that we have here that we do really well on a day-to-day basis that get put out. I mean, there's, and it can be the same thing year after year. If it's still good, promote it. I mean, I think sometimes we live in obscurity and we do some really good things here. And hopefully that type of thing helps maintain our enrollment. Like you say, I'd like to see it grow. If it stays the same, we're winning, because it's not staying the same very many places in the state of Michigan.
I
Good
think
point.
Greg, I really like that point. I think, I've talked to Matt, and I try to share with him things I see around the county or other schools that they're doing to share with them, and I do think that having someone that can support that full-time, take a lot off him and really help promote our schools, because when we get it out there, it seems to be really well received. One thing I had mentioned before, and I think we do it, I don't know if we've seen it, is a regular routine building survey audits of our employees. How do they feel? What's the climate of our building? Something to give feedback to us of kind of know where we're good and where we're bad. I mean, sometimes you gotta self-reflect. If you wanna keep getting good people to come here, you gotta make sure we're improving. And that's what, to me, if you have good educators and good administrators, that's the core of people wanting to come to the school. It would be nice to see. The strategic plan is obviously critical going forward to get the community involvement. And then something to me, a KPI would be a regular update on site visits. What's the schedule? What are you seeing as the professional leader of our schools? Maybe a building a month or something like that, I don't know.
Okay, very helpful, thank you.
All right, that takes us to item scheduled for next agenda, and that is still you, Mr. Hilton.
Yep, certainly, trustees will have some good news. There'll be some discussion items. The big thing that I want you to know on the agenda will be the 25-26 budget amendment, as well as then the action item around careers in data science.
All right, that brings us to close. Board member comment and discussion. Are we discussed out?
Yeah. I think we did the right thing by hashing it out tonight and taking option 2. The others, the type of money that we're talking about for a pool can't fall solely on the board. I don't think we can ask for a millage for that. I mean, we passed the sinking fund. It wasn't by a wide margin, and that was even including trying to address where the pool was at. It's tough when you have a limited budget in the state of Michigan. It's, we had $320,000 more we could have had. We just had to forego that because we want to give up our constitutional right as a school board district. So, I mean, that money goes a long way. We don't have it now. I would love to say yes, we could. I'd like to see a new pool here. I would, like everybody else had mentioned, but I just don't think we could choose that one of the other options and then pray that we get a millage.
Right.
It's not something we can budget.
I think that's been weighing on all of us for quite some time. Obviously, this is not the way we wanted it to go. But as you've mentioned, when our first and foremost is to educate the students, we can't take $15 million that we don't have to hope that it works out. So it was unfortunate that we have to make that decision, but we did. Moving on from that, as I said earlier, kind of caught me off guard, but I am honored, thank you, Tim, and I do look forward to serving this board. and getting a lot of great work done for our district and community.
I would like to see a communication come out from you, Mr. Hilton, tomorrow regarding the decision about the pool and some of the background. And because I feel like, to Mr. Miller's point, we have broken the public trust, and the reason the sinking fund was pushed over was because of the pool being addressed. So in speaking to some community members, they basically said they won't approve another bond based on what's happened with the pool. So I just want to make sure that we are at least getting that information out to them, being as transparent as possible, and just kind of letting them know the facts of what's going on.
I take issue with breaking the trust to the public. I agree that we pushed what we hoped to do with the millage, and we pushed one area that is unfortunate. I think we've been transparent since we found out there was an issue. And I would encourage all of the board, myself included, to not speak in deficiency language when we speak about the district. Looking at a lot of districts in the state, we are stronger than others. We have better offerings for sure. We have community support. Is it unfortunate that we have to make a tough decision? It is. Did we go into the sinking fund knowing this was coming and making a promise? No, we did not. And so, it's very tough. It's very, very tough. There's no good decision here, or
No.
no good feeling decision is maybe a better way to put it. But I also think the discussions that we've had this evening demonstrate very, very strongly that everyone at this board table is here for the right reasons again, and is here for our students and our families. And I think that's a strength that we have, and that we'll continue to utilize as we move forward with these kind of tough decisions.
Any further thoughts?
I don't think we're good.
I will take a motion then.
I move to adjourn tonight's meeting.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done.